Hello, my beautiful crafty friends. I'm Katya with Lunar Sun Creations, and welcome to part 2 of our simple Christmas mini album. So yesterday we created our pages and did all the elements on them, and we created our cover for it. If you haven't seen part 1, then I'll link it down below so you can go check that out first. So today we're going to be doing all the finishing touches and decorating, etc., etc., doing the binding system, all that jazz. So I have already put a lot of the pattern paper on, just because it does take a couple hours and I didn't want you to have to sit through 2 hours of me adding patterned paper onto here. However, I did leave all the extra elements that needed to be done. I left them so we could do that together, and I will go slowly through each page, so if you do want to do the exact same thing as I am, you can. The papers that I'm using, it's a Winter Wonderland bundle from Dreamy Paper Art. Okay, so let's go through them very slowly and finish up all the extra things that need to happen. Okay, so this is page 1. So I've got paper on the bottom, but not on the top of this yet. And the solid colors, I've just made solid colors and printed them out. You could just use colored cardstock. And then on the inside, we've got this beautiful bird image. So just so you know, with all of these images, they come as they're meant for junk journals. So they come 2 images per 8.5 by 11 inch paper. And when you print them out, and then I also get them printed with 2 per page, so that they come out this size, which is 3.5 by 5, just over 5 1/8. Okay, so I've got just white on the inside bits here, and now this piece here is what I want to act as the closure for this part. So what I'm going to do is put a little piece of score tape on the back of this, and then add a magnet. I'm going to do it somewhere near the top. So adding 2 magnets magnetized together. Another little piece of score tape. Okay, now I am just going to place this where it is that I want it. So I want it centered on my page. Again, I'm just going to eyeball it. If you would prefer to be very specific, then that is completely fine. I think that's a little bit high. There, looks good to me. Okay, so I'm just going to press that down to adhere the magnet. Put a little bit of score tape on the back of each of these magnets so they stay in place. Okay, so now we can add our pattern paper to this top part now, which is just going to be this same blue color. So I'm using my ATG gun to add the pattern paper. Fabulous. And now we're going to add adhesive to the lower half of this. So I'm just going to kind of let it adhere and just kind of make a mental mark of where the adhesive is going to go. So I want the adhesive roughly where the middle of the lantern starts. So I'm just going to kind of take that off and flip it over just so I kind of have a rough idea. So about the first third. So I'm going to add both score tape and some wet adhesive. I'm going to go with like 3 strips here. Okay, and then I'm going to remove the backing. Okay, I went a little bit cray-cray here. I'm just going to tuck that back in. And now we can add some wet adhesive to this. And again, kind of just like doing a double check and seeing where the adhesive should start, and that looks pretty good with what I've got, that little rectangle. Okay, and now because of this magnet, it already kind of knows where it's supposed to go. So we're just going to let the magnet find its buddy, and then we'll make sure it's straight and then press down. If there's any little bits of glue seeping out, make sure you get those right away. Okay, and now we will open this up because we need to do we need to cover up this part here. So I'm just gonna do it in, I think I'm just gonna put white there just so people have an extra spot to journal, so they can journal here and continue down here. Is this big enough? Perfect. Okay, I'm just gonna make a little mark on how long this needs to be, how wide. Okay, and give it a cut. So if there's anyone unfamiliar, if this is like your first album that you're making and you're not quite sure how to get the sizes of the pattern paper, just measure the area that you want to cover and then cut your pattern paper to be 1/4 of an inch smaller, both vertically and horizontally, and that way you get this little black border around it. I mean, that's what I prefer. If you want it right to the very, very, very edge, then that's fine. I just prefer there to be a little border. I think it really adds to it. All right, so that is page 1. Page 2. So I've got this beautiful kind of forest theme here with a little house, and I wanted the house to be here, but I kind of wanted the scene to continue. So I did cut the piece so that it cuts off right after the house, and then put the other half here. But this was the width of it, so I had to use a couple strips of just plain colored cardstock on either side just to cover it completely. And then inside we've got the pull out, and I've just got this gorgeous deer, this buck image on there, and then white on the back. And then on here I just wanted to show you that when we put a piece of paper on the inside of a pocket, you want it to go in. So this white piece of white paper is going in right to about here. You want it to go in minimum 1/2 inch. All right, so I'm just going to put some adhesive on here. And then we're just gonna slide it in a little bit, but don't let it touch the base page yet, because you want to make sure that you get it in place before it starts to adhere. So right now I'm holding it so that right now it's like touching the top of this, but not actually touching the base page yet. And you get it kind of where you want it. Oh, I let it. There we go. Okay, perfect. So I want it right about there, and then let it adhere. Okay, and I left this piece off just because I wanted to make sure that you knew that wherever we have a magnet, to make sure to remove that score tape from the top of the magnet before you put your pattern paper on. So I'm just going white in this area as well. I want there to be lots of places for people to be able to journal and such. Okay, and that just goes right in there, and that closes up like that. Okay, and then page 3, I like the pages, I kind of do them so that they coordinate together. So 2 and 3 look very similar, they're very cohesive together. So this one is the one where we just have one simple flap, and then on the inside I've just done white paper with some border strips, and I did just realize that I was going to put a little piece of ribbon to open that, and I forgot. So options are, I don't think this paper, oh, I might be able to get this paper up enough to put a piece of ribbon. Is it going to let me? Without wrecking it? Okay, I might be able to slide a piece of ribbon in there. I'm going to try it. Okay, so I've just got some sheer white ribbon here, and I'm just going to cut a little piece. It's maybe like 3 inches. I'm going to put just a little bit of score tape on the end here, and then fold the ribbon in half so it like sticks to itself like that, just to form a little loop. So you want at least this much without any adhesive. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. So like, you know, 5/8 of an inch or so without any adhesive. Now we're going to put some score tape on this part here and then tuck it into this page. And this is an optional step. You don't have to have this piece of ribbon by any means. It's just an extra bit. Oh, that's probably gonna bug me now. You know what, I'm just gonna recut a piece of white, I think. Now that I've torn it up this far, I'm just gonna cut a new piece of white because I don't like the crinkles in it. Okay, so now we're gonna put this right, oh, and I took my magnet with it. I'm just gonna put this right in the center. Yeah, that's enough to pull on. I'm going to re-add a magnet because tearing that paper off made it so my magnet came up as well. So I'm just gonna put this back on. There we go. And then I'm just going to recut a piece of white and put that on. Okay, perfection. Like it never happened. Okay, so that is page 3. We're going to flip it over. So this is the page where we're going to have our rolling waterfall. So on the base, I've just got a solid piece of colored cardstock. On the actual waterfall itself, I've got one of the smaller journaling cards, and then I just used some gray cardstock on the top and the bottom because this journaling card wasn't long enough to go all the way from top to bottom, and I wanted it to match. And then on the inside, to cover this magnet, I'm just going to put a piece of white cardstock, and then on this inside bit here, I'm also going to put white cardstock. So I want this piece, so if you lift this whole thing up, because it's not adhered yet, right? So I want this piece to go right from the bottom of where our score lines start, our 1/2 inch score lines start, go right to there. You're not really going to see a whole lot of it, like you won't see the whole thing, but I just think it is a neater way to go. Okay, so I'm just going to put those 2 pieces down. Some can go down. Okay, fabulous. And now flip this all kind of back over. And now the last piece that we need to put on is on our final waterfall piece. I suppose I need to put something here too because I've written on it. Okay, well, for now, I'm going to put one over here because I don't want people to see this strip. So I'm going to put a piece of cardstock here. So let's just see what we have working with here. So we need something that is 3.5 by about 4 3/4. Okay, so I've decided to use this beautiful wolf image. So I'm going to put that right there. Oh, and I also wanted to mention that this is also an optional step, but I do tend to ink up my edges just so you don't see the white core of the paper. It's totally a personal choice, but I like to do that. So I'm using a very, very old Ranger vintage photo distress ink and just an ink dauber. It's not much, it's very subtle, but it's something that has just become habit for me because I think it just makes it look cleaner than showing the core of the paper. But you do you, boo. You do you. Alright, okay, so just centering that down. Alright, fantastic. So now we just, oh, and I just put this little girl walking in the snow at the top to cover my writing. Alright, so that is all good to go. This is what it looks like on the back. No one's gonna see the back side. You can cover it if you so desire, but I mean, no one should see it. Maybe I should cover it though, just to be thorough. Okay, I'm just gonna cover it just in case someone who purchases this album looks at it and doesn't like that. This is an optional step here, just to make it so that this whole waterfall part is a little bit more secure and not kind of flopping around. I am going to add a magnet to the back. So what I've done so far is I've put a magnet on the inside of the page, just one single magnet on the inside right here. And then I've let another magnet just kind of find its buddy through the paper there, putting a tiny bit of score tape on top of it. And now I'm going to kind of just place my waterfall where it is that I want it to sit on the page. We're not adhering it yet, I'm just placing it here to get that magnet in place. And that looks good, so we're just going to push down. Okay, so now we've got a magnet in the right place on the back side. So now we can just do a little cover up here. And we can put a piece of paper on the back side of this now. So I'm just using a very basic black. I haven't inked the edges of this one because, again, no one's really going to see it. This is just to make sure everything is clean and finished. Okay, so now this is going to sit where we want it to, even without using these tabs. All right, so it's just a little extra kind of protection. And on the inside, just so you know, I've also, that magnet, I'm going to cover it with just a tiny bit of Tyvek that has some adhesive on it, just so it also stays in place. Okay, and then the last step for this page is to actually attach this. So this is important. We want quite a bit of adhesive on these two flaps because these two flaps are essentially what is making the whole thing kind of work. So we want these to be very well adhered down to our page. So I've got both the score tape and some wet adhesive. Okay, I'm going to use my finger just to spread it out to make sure every little bit of this is coated. Okay, and now I'm going to kind of fold these behind and let the magnet find its buddy, and then make sure it's straight and let it fall down to it here and press. And now I'm gonna leave this for a few minutes because I don't want to disturb it until the glue is absolutely and completely dry. Okay, so I'll leave this for a few minutes and then we'll move on to the next page. Okay, so my glue is all dry and now we have got our gorgeous waterfall. Okay, so that is page 4. Page 5 and 6, there wasn't anything really funky that had to be done, so I'll just show you the pattern paper that I've added. So in the little insert, just plain white on the inside and then some trees on the outside. Simple blue here, white on the inside, and then this is the pocket, one of the little mini journaling cards. Okay, so that's page 5. Page 6, I've gone with one of the full-size journaling papers, white on either side of that, and then I just left the inside blank so there was room for photos and such. Plain blue and a beautiful little owl. Okay, so that is all of our page designs done. So now we are going to create our binding system. We will need a piece of cardstock that is 8 inches by 10 inches. Okay, now we're gonna grab our scoreboard. Okay, and there's quite a few score lines, so stay with me here. I will say them a couple times. So 1 inch. 1 1/2, 1 3/4, 2 1/2, 3 1/4, 4, 4 1/4, 5, 5 3/4, 6, 6 1/2, 6 3/4, 7 1/2, 8 1/4, and 9. Okay, so let me just bring this up and explain what we're doing here. So the inch on either end is going to go behind the binding system and adhere to the spine. Then we're going to have a 1/2 inch in between each page, as well as before the first page and after the last page. So we've got a 1/2 inch here, and then this is going to be, it's going to fold, and that's where our page is going to slide onto. And then we've got another 1/2 inch space, and this is where our page is going to slide onto. 1/2 inch space, and then a page, and then a 1/2 inch. And this extra 1/4 inch in between all of that, that's just gonna give your pages a little bit more flexibility in their movement. So I'll go over the measurements again, and then as we go further, you will understand what that extra 1/4 inch is for. Okay, so once again, we have got 1, 1 1/2, 1 3/4, 2 1/2, 3 1/4, 3 1/2, 4, 4 1/4, 5, 5 3/4, 6, 6 1/2, 6 3/4, 7 1/2, 8 1/4, and 8 1/2, and 9. Okay? Now we can put our scoreboard away. Now we are going to, for the moment, we're just going to put score tape on each of the 3/4 inch sections. Actually, you don't even need to do it on each of them. Do it on every second one. Okay, so here's 1, skip that one. Put it on this one, skip that one. Put it on this one, skip that one. Now we're going to remove this. Put a tiny bead. Okay, and then we're going to fold those 2 3/4 inch sections together. And then fold the other parts back. Okay, give it a good crease with your bone folder, if you can find your bone folder. Okay, so that's 1 page. Okay, do it again with the next 2 3/4 inch sections, just a small bead of glue. Fold those 3/4 inch sections together and then fold back on the 2 bits that are right next to it. Okay, give it a good crease. Okay, we are going to be folding every one of these score lines. I just want to, I feel like it's easier to understand if you understand where the pages are going. Okay, and last time, this is for our 3rd page. Okay, so these are the 3 areas, 1, 2, 3, where our pages are going to slide onto. Okay, these 2 bits on either end are going to slide back and adhere to the binding system itself. Okay, and so now we're going to crease and fold and crease all of the other little bits. What I'm trying to do is make it so our pages are going to slide on just to that 1/4 inch section. That 1/4 inch section is going to fly free, and that way it can move with the page and give it a little bit more extra room to grow, shall we say. Okay, so I'm kind of like pinching the page and then going one way and then the other way. So pinching it that way, give it a little crease, and then unfold and pinch it the other way. Okay, and then I'm going to do it one last time. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So we've got, it's like a little V right here at the base of each page. See that little V right there? Okay, so each one of those pages has one, and when we adhere it down, so these two bits are going to go backwards and sit onto the spine, and then these are going to be up like this. Okay. All right, so I find it easier to put the binding system into the album first and then put my pages in, so that's how I'm going to do it. Feel free to do it however you think is going to be easiest for you. Okay, I feel like I can line up my binding system straighter if that's the only thing that I'm adhering and it's not doesn't have the pages already attached. So I'm just putting some score tape on each one of those flanges that the pages are going to go onto, making sure not to go into that 1/4 inch section. You want to just put it on the 3/8 of an inch part. Okay, and now we are going to do a little miter. This just makes it easier for the pages to slide in when there's a little bit of an angle. So again, I'm not cutting into that 1/4 inch section. Okay, get these out of the way. Okay, so this is what your binding system should look like now. Okay, so now I'm going to add score tape to these 2-inch sections. You know what, while I'm thinking about it, I think I'm just going to add a little bit of Tyvek just to the 2 ends, just so they are super, super strong. This is, again, optional. I'm just a big fan of strengthening things. Hadn't actually even planned to do this. This is just an extra little step that I think will make a big difference. So I'm just going to cut a little over 1 inch on each side here. Okay, and I'm going to put some score tape and wet adhesive on the backs of these. Anything that gets a lot of movement and is going to be open and closed and open and closed, eventually it will wear down, and because it is just paper, it will tear, you know, eventually. So anything that's going to get a lot of movement, I do like to reinforce, especially if it's holding a lot of weight, like this is what's going to be, you know, holding our pages into the album itself. So you don't want the pages to fall out. So I like to reinforce whenever I can. Takes a little bit of extra time, but I think it's worth it. Okay, so I'm going to put these 2 pieces on, and then we'll put the binding into our album. Okay, give that a little smooth. Okay, and now, so the binding is flipped over, and I'm putting it right over the first 1/2 inch section and the 3/4 inch section. So just that first crease there. Okay, and I'm going to do the same on this side, and then I'm going to reinforce those folds. Or sorry, like use the bone folder on them again just to make sure they're nicely creased. Reinforce the score line, I guess that's what I meant to say. Something like that. You get me. I'm sure you understand. Okay. Okay, so it's just covering the 1/2 inch section and this section. All right, so now I'm just going to reinforce that fold. Okay, and I'm gonna give these just a tiny miter as well, just because I want the adhesive to be right up to the very edge. So I'm just gonna give them a tiny trim here. Okay, I'm gonna remove the score tape backing from one side. Add some wet adhesive. Okay, so this is going to go right up to, but not over, the crease in our album, okay? So where the adhesive is, and you want it centered up and down. Okay, as straight as possible, even space from the top and the bottom. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, just kind of flip it over like this and just make sure, wipe any excess adhesive that is seeped out. Now, if you like, in my larger albums, the pages of this one aren't that heavy, so I'm probably not going to do it on this one. But in my larger albums, I tend to go in with a crocodile and punch a hole at the top and the bottom, and in between each page, and put brads as well, just to really hold it in there. But the pages of this one aren't that heavy, so I think this is going to be sufficient. Okay, so now we are going to take the tape backing off this side and do the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to tuck it under and then go right to the edge. Sorry if my head gets in the way, without going over that crease. And then push. And you can kind of go with your fingers on the inside, or you can take a ruler underneath and kind of push it down that way. Okay, so now this enables your pages to be floating free, like they will kind of sit down a little bit. Okay, like they will, when the pages are in, they will like kind of sit against the spine, but as you're opening it, they have room to expand. I hope you can actually see that. I'm sorry how dark it is in here. So it will expand, but you can push against the spine when the pages are in. Okay, so let's add our pages. We'll remove our tape backing from the first page. And then open it like this. Oh, I need to put a little bit of wet adhesive on there still. So a little bit on each side. Okay, and then just slide the page. Try and bring it up to show you. So we're just going to slide the page into the flange, or into, sorry, slide the page onto the flange. So got our opening right there, kind of keeping it open with my hand, and I'm just going to slide the page on. Just like that until it hits the 1/4 inch section. It's hard to do it when I'm holding the whole thing up. So make sure the whole thing is even, like even up and down. There we go. Now we're even. Okay, and then push. Okay, and again on the other side. Okay, and then we can do our next page. Okay, so again, now we've got that little piece of ribbon right there. Make sure you don't get that tucked in and adhered onto your spine, or onto your binding. Okay, so just slowly sliding it. That glue, the wet adhesive gives you just a tiny opportunity to adjust things if you need to. They're even with each other. Okay, and the third one. Okay. And that one looks good. Okay, and there are your pages. So see how they lie completely flat? Because the binding allows them to do so. All right, so now we can work on our covers. I'm trying to decide whether or not I want a ribbon closure on this. I think I'm going to. Okay, so I'm just going to take some of this ribbon and adhere it to the front and back cover, probably about, I don't know, 16 inches or so. Okay, so I'm going to put a strip of score tape in the middle-ish. You can, of course, measure. Like middle? I think that's middle. Sure. And I'm going to put a tiny line of wet adhesive and then put my ribbon down. You don't want the adhesive going right to the very, very edge of the album, the cover, just because you don't want to be able to see it. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on the back and just kind of line up the pieces of ribbon. Oh, and now I'm realizing it's not quite centered. I think I'm going to move it down just a little bit. Better. Okay, and then do the same on the other side. This is optional. You don't have to have a ribbon closure. You don't have to have a closure at all. I'm going to line this up with the one on the other side. Okay, perfect. Now I want to put this gorgeous image on the front, but it is a little bit too small for the front of the album, so I'm going to first put it on a slightly larger coordinating piece. I'm trying to bring out a little bit of the color in her outfit and her headdress. so first I'll put it on here. Oh, I forgot to ink the edges, so do a quick little ink of the edges here, just to get rid of that white core. Okay, and then we can adhere this on. Okay, so we'll make sure we're on the front. Make sure you're right side up. Okay, so there we go. And then we'll do the same with the back piece. And this is what I'm using for the back. Okay, for the spine, I've just got that same cardstock with just part of a journaling card, and I'm going to put a little added embellishment at the top and the bottom. Okay, and then I've done the same thing on the inside covers. I've just added some of the deep blue cardstock around the edge. And then your last finishing touch, you might want to add some paper to the 1/2 inch section in between the pages. Again, this is optional. I just like to do all the tiny little finishing touches. And then I've got these Kaiser Craft little tiny wood flourishes. So I'm going to use these 2 little wood pieces. Oh, it's really hard to see them right now. It's starting to get dark outside. And I've just inked them up with the same vintage photo ink, and I'm just going to glue those on. And there we go, that finishes off the spine. And there is the album. Just do up the tie here. Sure. Oh, I should make sure that I don't have anything on my fingers first. And you can just adjust that bow how you want it. I might trim off just a little bit here. And there you go. So I hope you have enjoyed this simple Christmas album. Things don't have to be overly complicated to look amazing. I'm just starting to learn that. I always want to overcomplicate everything. So this is a gorgeous little album that doesn't take a super long time to create, and it looks gorgeous. All right, I hope you're having a beautiful day, and would love to read all your comments down below and see what you think. And I hope you give it a shot. Okay, sending you huge hugs. Bye.